Hi, I'm Pat Fiume, and I'm a realtor with Remax of Cherry Hill. I've been doing this for 36 years. I'm also a host of The American Dream. Today, we're going to start my podcast. Is this for real estate? Hi, I'm here with my first guest, my friend Abby Cohler, a real estate attorney. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Oh, Pat, thanks. I feel so privileged to be your first guest.
Oh, you're always there for me when I need you.
Oh, thank you.
Like all my guests, I always have. So, what can you tell me about how an attorney impacts the real estate transaction for new buyers and even realtors who may not know what an attorney's job is in a transaction?
So, in the state of New Jersey, although you don't need to have an attorney, it's always a good idea to have an attorney. Because the real estate contract it's a contract. It's a legal transaction, and I prefer when I start out initially with the client, either before they sign the contract or right after they sign the contract during the attorney review period, because then it gets everybody off on a good footing, as opposed to somebody calling me 3 days before closing and there's a legal issue and
a panic.
And a panic.
Yeah.
Right, correct.
I've called you many times.
Yes.
Clients that refuse to get an attorney and they need one.
Right.
And that's another thing, like sometimes buyers don't want to get an attorney, and that's fine. However, I tell buyers, if you get a buyer or sellers, a buyer who uses an attorney, you get an attorney review letter, at least let Abby or an attorney look at it, because I'm not an attorney. I can't interpret or practice law, and an attorney can put something in a letter that one word can change the entire contract. And you really need an attorney to look at that, because it's a legal document that you sign that we're not sure what it says. So
Right. And unless you get an attorney, you're not going to get any legal advice from agents, your inspectors, and even the title company, because they'll actually have, a buyer or seller sign something saying, we cannot provide you with legal advice.
Right, that's a form in our settlements.
Right.
So what else have you done with real estate transactions? I know sometimes, like, I guess we have an estate or something, you've done other documentations as well for that.
Yeah. So if I have an estate, who's the seller, there's some legal requirements that the title company is going to want, an estate questionnaire, or they're going to want to make sure that there was an inheritance tax waiver, and buyer or seller without an attorney is not going to know that.
Right.
And you might, get towards closing and find out that all your escrow monies are going to be escrowed.
All your proceeds are going to be escrowed. Because I know a couple times I've had people right before closing, I tell them this, and I'm like, because you didn't do an L8 or L9,
Right.
And I have sometimes I try to ask that question when I'm on a listing, and I know it's an estate, and I say, if you don't have an attorney, I give them to you, if they need a recommendation, because that's so important to have that. And it comes back very fast.
It does.
But that money is going to be held a lot of times if it's not in process or not in place.
If it's not a taxable estate, you'll get the waiver pretty quickly.
Okay, and then I know we just had a deal, but I had a very kind of difficult seller. He was an interesting guy, and I don't think we would have got to the table if it wasn't for you. So a lot of time, and it's true. He maybe would have got there eventually, but we were negotiating a home inspection, and he was just so stuck on certain things that he couldn't get past himself. And I referred him to you, and it kind of really made a big difference having an attorney negotiate the real estate home inspection request, because the buyer had a realtor attorney,
correct.
Real estate attorney who was very, very good. And, they don't like, sometimes a real estate attorney on the buyer's side or seller, whichever side I'm representing, doesn't like to talk to a realtor. They want to talk to another attorney, or it actually goes a lot quicker, attorney to attorney, I think, than negotiations, even with the attorney review letters.
Yeah, and I think in South Jersey, most of the attorneys that do real estate, we have a decent relationship with each other, so we are able to, make reasonable changes and accommodations.
It's like us realtors, we all know each other, we work well together, so
and that's
it
why
does help.
And that's why I think you and I have worked so well together over the years. We've become friends.
Yeah, we have
Not
become
just
friends.
colleagues, but friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know you, you've become friends with a lot of your clients, and I feel that's why we work so well together, because I like that relationship with my clients too. I like to think that my clients become my friends and refer business like they do for you.
Absolutely, and I know you've referred me to other lawyers who do wills and estates and things like that have a problem that they need a lawyer or a realtor to do a market analysis, and I refer people to you all the time.
Right.
It does work out well for both of us, and because I know that they'll be taken care of the way I would want somebody taking care of me or someone in my family, and that's how Abby is. And Abby, you also do estate planning and wills as another service too, which goes along with real estate.
Right. Correct. So yeah, it's been a good relationship.
So I'm trying to, as this podcast, I'm trying to get a funny story from everybody at the end, something that happened and that they can relate to that might make somebody laugh at the end, because this is a very serious subject. You know, it's very confusing to buyers and sellers and even realtors who are starting out. Even some of the seasoned ones, you know, we all have a funny story or two that we tell at cocktail parties or something. What's your story?
Well, I've had some interesting cases that might not be so funny, but recently, I guess we all get so bogged down. We get spam calls all the time and spam emails, and you know, it even says possible spam at the top of and I don't answer the calls thinking, right. I don't answer the call thinking if it's a real call, they're gonna leave me a voicemail. Mm-hmm. So a couple weeks ago, for like a couple days in a row, I kept getting a phone call from, and the caller said FedEx.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so I'm thinking spam, right? I don't, spam, don't answer. No voicemails. Then one day, so maybe a week later, I'm actually on my way home from the gym, and my phone rang in my car, and I didn't check to see who it was, and I answered the call, and it was this FedEx number. It turns out it was a real call.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it was a package ready for a closing in like a few days.
And it was probably coming from out of state.
It was coming from
away.
Florida.
Wow.
And
and you didn't answer
they had
the call.
and I didn't answer the call because but even when I was talking to them on the phone, the caller from FedEx was talking about this package going to somebody named Michelle. I'm like, I don't know anybody named Michelle. I mean, I do, but I don't. But I'm thinking, I think you have the wrong number. And then they said, no. And they started talking about Century Boulevard. I'm like, no, my street's Center Boulevard. But she kept pronouncing right. But it turns out it was my client's package, and
that you were waiting for.
They were waiting for the title company. So I just said, you know what? Just send it to me. And it was there the next day in my office.
Thank goodness.
Ready for closing. And the moral to that story is answer the spam calls, because you never know. You can always hang up.
That's true.
And then block them later.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah, so
well, thank you for
being
having me here.
Thank you. And I have another deal for her, so we'll talk after.
Okay.
Okay.